Welcome back, guys. This week we're going to be talking about Lunar 1. We're going to be cutting apart, adding in a removable core support, which is going to give us access to the engine bay, makes servicing super easy, as well as if we ever have to pull a motor out again, it's a couple of bolts and we'll be able to pull it out. So let's get into the core supports. Let's start cutting, welding, and building some brackets. Let's talk about why we need a removable core support. I touched on it a bit in the intro, but let's go over it in detail. When you're pulling apart the front of the 4Runner, you have to take off the front bumper, you have to take off the headlights, all of these bracket supports to be able to get something close enough into the engine bay to be able to pull the motor. And then when you do have to pull the motor, you have to disconnect it from the transmission so you can lift it out the top. What we're doing is we're designing the front of Lunar 1 to be so simple that we can pull a couple bolts and slide the motor and transmission out. That makes it very easy for servicing, makes it very easy if we need to pull it out, change internal components of the motor, or if we just want to pull the motor out, to pull the motor out. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna bust out the Sawzall, we're gonna cut this up, weld new brackets, and we're gonna have a finished product by the end of this video. All right, so here's what I'm thinking. I want to cut this right here. So basically right along the fender line. That's gonna give us the maximum amount of space. Now, it's important to make sure when we do that I'm not modifying too much. So I'm gonna cut right on the inside of these headlight mounts. So like right in here, all the way down, keeping it right in line with the inner fender, which is gonna make this whole piece come apart. I'm gonna do a bracket that faces up to the inside of this fender well right here. And then I'm gonna do another bracket that fits on the top and bottom of the core support. So when we need to take it out, it'll be as simple as loosening up a couple bolts and sliding it out. Measurement wise, we'll do 3 inches. Do 8 3/4.
1, 3, and 2.
I thought you said you were 5'10".
Let me do you a favor and get you a real tape.
Perfect. Exactly what we need. We're gonna run that at 14 inches.
Okay, I got my edit pin right there.
18 1/4.
18 1/4. Got it.
Hopefully you can read that, because that's...
This is French. It's my second language.
Wow. As much as I want to just grab the Sawzall and cut the front of this up, this isn't Lunar 2. We got to do it right. This is going to be the piece that goes up against the fender, and then this piece here is going to get cut out and bent. It's going to be the bracket that fits around the core support. And hopefully, if I did my math right, which we had super precise scientific measurements from Safety Steve, let's just get this cut out. Let's do the stuff. All right, we are done. Everything is cut out. Time to clean it up and then weld it together. Well, I guess you kind of have to cut out the front of the 4Runner first. So clean it up, cut it out, weld it, weld, clean, cut out. This is the bracket for the removable core support. I cut this out, this is I think 3/16 steel, but this is gonna go together in the engine bay. This is what is gonna make the front of the 4Runner removable. And we've got some welding and bending and stuff to do, but let me show you what this is gonna do in the engine bay. So this is going to, ideally, right, sandwich the core support in. So this little tab right here is gonna like bend like, and then this one's gonna, and then it's gonna like this on the core support. So I designed this so this little spot right here, this little guy right here is gonna overlap over underneath, and this is gonna line up perfectly with this, with the fender. This is gonna line up perfectly with the fender. This piece is going to bolt like this, and it's gonna go perfectly together. And then with these folded over, there'll be 2 bolts on the top, 2 bolts on the bottom, and they will bolt into the core support. Let's get to bending and welding and get this thing in the engine bay. Okay, so looking over these brackets, we're gonna need to bend this guy first. So this is gonna be kind of the piece that holds everything else together. So let's measure this thing up. Let's see where it fits in the engine bay and get that clamping force just right. Safe, Steve.
So I'm telling you, you're gonna need that hand over there.
Yeah, we are. All right, I'll hold it, you grab the pin. All right, teamwork. You let this slip. Telling mom. You let it slip, dude.
No.
Yeah.
No. All right. It did not slip.
It did slip. It slipped.
I'm telling mom.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling mom that it slipped.
Now
All
put a
right.
mark off of that mark so you can tell which mark is the right mark.
We're gonna be, which mark's the right mark?
The lower mark.
The lower mark. So I'm gonna cross this one out so we know that this is the one we are not gonna not bend. So we're gonna bend this thing up to a perfect something degree angle. So the top one I think needs to be at more of like a downward sloped angle to match the core support. And the bottom one I wanna keep like a little bit more open. So that way when we go to put it in over the core support, we can actually get it in. It's not like we're just running it, bumping it into things. All right, a lot like the tube bender or pipe bender, this is gonna have a little bit of spring back, so depending on how angled we got it, but that looks perfect. That's got that little slant to it that I was talking about that I really wanted. So I notched this when I was making it so that it would have a spot that would make it easier to bend. Now you can see when I measured it for the top, it was a little bit off, but because this metal is actually pretty narrow, it's not gonna deform a whole lot, so we'll be just fine with that. All right. Woo, look at that. Exactly what we were going for. We're good, let's test fit. Okay, so this should fit right up like that, perfect. So we have a little bit of a problem. We need a little more angle. So I'm gonna put this back in the press brake. I'm gonna give it a little bit more of a bend. Hopefully that's a little better. Nice, that's exactly what we wanna see. It's clamping just pretty much right around the core support. I'm gonna mark where these bolts are gonna go. Then Safety Steve is gonna help me figure out where the bracket along the side is gonna fit up. All right, where's our bracket? Bracket. Right back. Bracket, okay.
Make sure we're still.
Pretty lined up to me. There we go. All right, so this bracket is gonna fit right in here like this. So right up against the fender. We're gonna weld this guy like so. So now that I've got these marked up, I'm gonna actually go over and scribe them, because when I'm TIG welding, which is how I'm gonna put these together, when I'm TIG welding steel, I don't want there to be any contaminants, especially not some weird Inksol ink. Safety Steve?
Yo.
Where's my scribe? So, side story. When I was growing up, my dad used to blame me for everything that went missing in the shop. So in my shop, I blame everything that goes missing on him, specifically. So where's my titanium and scribe, Dad? Like I said earlier, we are gonna scribe. Don't want there to be any contaminants when we go to weld. All right, let's get it cleaned up and tack this together.
Check it out.
All right, we got it all welded up. Now I did mark the holes here for drilling, and while that's cooling down, I'm gonna drill these holes. We are gonna have one that falls on the line outside of where I'm gonna cut, and one that's on the inside. No math. Let's see if the brackets have cooled down enough to touch. These things are sweet. Just to think like these were plate metal about 3 hours ago, and now look at them. Got it. Okay, so I'm gonna pull off the rest of this stuff, clear up the core support so I can. All right, water. Nice! Removable! Of sorts. Okay, next side. This is a removed core support. There's no more support from the core. I'm in the engine bay. We did it. She gone. Okay, now I gotta get out because it's super slippery. Safety Steve, help me!
You can do it.
This opens up so many possibilities. Imagine that you're out on the trail and you have to pull your motor and swap it for a jet engine. Now you can do that easily. Oh. Look at that. I'm gonna actually go in and I'm gonna tack weld some of these nuts in here so that it's easier just to go in and pull everything out. You don't have to mess around with trying to hold or get a wrench in there. Also, we are gonna be applying spacers down here, but for now, let's just get it in and see how everything lines up. How does it fit? We'll be able to essentially pull out these 4 bolts. We'll have like some quick release stuff on the side of the bumper, so we'll be able to pop those, pull the bumper off, take 4 bolts loose, and then be able to work on the front of the motor.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So if we do a turbo and Betty,
I like the sound of that.
we might want to do something like this though. So I mean, looking at this, do you trust me to do yours?
No.
So you're gonna work on your 4Runner when it breaks down, not me, right?
Well, yeah, but I'm gonna require a little bit of help.
All right, so we're sawzalling the front of it off. Got it. Well, guys, that's gonna do it for tonight. If you enjoy the content, please make sure you like, subscribe to the channel. Come back next week because we've got a lot more brewing. This is just the beginning. We cut this out to be able to fit one of the craziest 2JZ builds I could possibly imagine, and it's going in a 4Runner. We're also doing some crazy stuff in the interior of Lunar 2, and we're gonna sawzall the front of my dad's car off next week. Okay. This is the secret. This is the secret. That all these like super high-end builds know that you don't. You have to sawzall the front of your car. Wonder what my insurance company